Hello and welcome. If you're looking for all things GPVWC Super League, you're looking in the right place here on simnews.tv.
Evening all. If you're here looking for everything GPVWC. Evening all. If you
Hey and welcome. That was obviously a traditionally smooth start. That went well, didn't it? In the meantime though, we are here, we are back. Scrutineer once again. It is race week here for the Super League, for the WTF1 GPVWC Super League. We've got that tomorrow night. I know it's a bit later than normal, or becoming normal now I suppose, maybe the night before. So thank you all to everyone who's turned up at such a random time of evening as well. I know it's late for some of you in certain areas of the world as well, but you know, hey, it's the USA Grand Prix, so in fact we're quite early. But in the meantime, we've got 17 of you already. Thank you very much for everyone for joining. Thank you, hello to Cameron, Tyler, Peter, David and Dennis. Nice to see you all joining me once more. It's great to see some familiar faces and some people that will be racing as well. Mate, hopefully not just listening out for your names. Do pay attention, there's an awful lot going on. We are getting to the crunch end of the season now. As you'll already have seen, if you've been watching other simnews.tv broadcasts with GPV, the rest of the ladder is sort of coming to a close as well. We've got the we've got the Formula Challenge that you saw last night and the Super Cup that's just finished on this channel. If you haven't seen them, make sure you watch them. The races are all available back on this channel on GPV, so make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell notifications so you don't miss any races in the future, which is fair enough. So those titles as well have already, the team's titles in those two championships have been won, but the drivers' titles are still coming down to the wire with 2 rounds to go. We've also got both titles still on the line here in Super League, as we'll come on to as we're getting near the end of the season. There's an awful lot of connotations as well. We start looking at next year, unlike some championships where you kind of finish one season and just have a winter off and then come back. GPV, because of the way that Super League works, and also when the teams are announced at GPVWC Day the first weekend of December, so that's quite soon when you think about it. We're mid-October now, so the season's got another month to run. So actually it's only a few weeks after the end of the season, and the teams that are going to enter the next championship are already announced at that stage. Some teams even launch their drivers on GPVWC Day itself. Fair enough. Not all of them, by all means. Of course, if you're one of those teams on the border, you can't really risk gambling that. It's quite, but some of the top teams that have always been there, Norton traditionally used to always do it. Hawkeye, we've seen do it a few times. ACR have that sort of thing. So those sort of teams maybe, or ones that always keep consistent lineups. We used to always see Nijo doing a sort of November press release that they were always keeping Tom Vandervoort, for you guys that have been around a bit longer. The traditional, you know, if it didn't come, it was a bit of a surprise really, but it always happened pretty much the same weekend. So all that sort of thing will start coming forwards, and that's the sort of stuff that we follow in this programme. So if you've not watched Scrutineer before, welcome, nice to see you. I don't know how you found me, because it's a weird time of night to have found me, and what on earth you were looking at to find this, I'm not sure, but great to have you here anyway. It's all about the fantastic world of esports that we've now got going on in sim racing. This is a ladder series, so this is the top series we're going to be talking about, and it's not even cars, it's very different. It's basically Formula 1 in esports form, which has some exciting benefits with that as well, which is great. So I talk you through all those differences in those teams and cars and engine choices and all the developments they put on. So all the developments you put on the car, unlike Formula 1, we get to know exactly what has been put on the cars and what hasn't. So we can get an idea of what to expect and kind of get, not that teams can influence that now because it's already locked in, but there's a few bits and pieces that are very different. So we go through car development, we're going to go through engine development, engine choices and tyre choices, all of which make a huge impact on the race tomorrow. We're also going to have a bit of fun towards the end as well, and as normal, no doubt some banter in the chat, which seems to already be going on actually, so lovely to see that you all can have a bit of banter with each other, and surprise surprise, some of the people that are already doing that. Nice to see you again. So I think, should we crack on? So we've got an awful lot to go on. This is obviously 3 rounds from the end now, so we've got USA and 2 more rounds to come. Let's find out what we've got going on here. So how about ACR. Right, so ACR development. As we've spoken about before, an awful lot of teams have maxed out weight and diffuser. In this case though, they've now upgraded, so you can basically bring 2 upgrades each time. If you haven't watched before, watch back some of the shows, it explains a bit more detail. We've sort of gone into this already, but at this stage they brought body drag and rear wing downforce, so those 2 areas they have been developing already, they're developing further now, so you can see a theoretical time gain that we've gained there compared to the car previously. So just on the chassis this is, so that reckons just over 1/10 of a gain there, which is pretty good at this stage of the season, to be fair. Again, we'll get onto exactly what all that means and stuff when we summarise it all, and some provisos with that, of course, because everyone goes a little bit mad at the exact figures, thinking why on earth they're not exactly at that pace when the race happens tomorrow. But 2 upgrades coming for this round is pretty big from ACR. Edge second standings also brought 2 upgrades to this one. They've also done weight and diffuser previously. The front wing downforce they've carried on with it, and a big upgrade this time which nearly maxes that out. I'd imagine they probably won't do that again now between now and the end of the year. And then body drag they've been doing as well, same as ACR have been doing. Interesting, the difference in these 2 cars realistically is one's done front wing and the other one's done rear wing. It's quite nice to see that the top 2 teams have gone slightly different directions. We haven't just got 2 mirrored cars at the top showing that. So it shows that you can go different routes and still have very competitive and race winning cars. Evolution, third in the standings. They've done a bit of a mix of everything really, but again, still doing body drags. They've got 1 upgrade here. They've done rear wing and some front wing previously as well, so their theoretical time gain is about half as much as the ACR and Edge this time out. Epic didn't bring anything this time out at all. Potentially you see certain teams at this stage we'll come on to, because we're near the end of the year, we will start seeing some teams stop developing. Because to develop a car, as in any real motorsport, it's costing you an awful lot of money, it's costing you, development points as well in our case, which is effectively the resource, like you would in real life as staff, I suppose, sort of knowledge. So those 2 areas are what cost to do development. You can carry some of this over into next year though. You have to be able to enter next year, have put 300 R&D points away. So you effectively give that away in the design office, and that's effectively saying that you've put enough R&D points away to have a base car for next year. Kind of what that is. So you can't use, if you haven't done that, you then have to earn those R&D points in pre-season next year, which hampers hampers the amount you've earned next year that you can put on the car. Because other teams will use this year's R&D points to just get the base, and then everything they earn next year they can put onto the car for next year. So that's what teams will already be thinking about. Particularly teams that think they're safe in the positions they're at, maybe, or that their car is good enough. If you're not in a title battle, realistically, well, actually, officially now, only 2 teams can win this title. So and we've seen they're already still developing. New teams like Evolution and Epic will also have the added factor in of potentially they might be a little bit money stricken. But there you go. So actually, they start off with 50, it sounds a lot. They start off with £50 million, but some of the new teams, some of the older, longer-term teams will probably have double that at the start of the season, and so they now have to factor in. Actually, should we save the money now? We've got, so in Epic's case, they're safe in 4th. Hawkeye aren't catching them. They could keep going and try and beat Evolution, but I'd probably say that they might be in their interest now as a new team. Save your money, save your R&D points into next year, and have a good push at it again, because they've already shown they can really push it at the top and have wins. Not to say they can't win with the car they've already got, because actually the differences we're talking now are so minute, as we'll come on to, that actually you're spending an awful lot of money for very little, no massive time gains basically. But anyway, Epic Car's the same as it was last time. Let's get Hawkeye. Hawkeye have brought an upgrade here. They have already maxed out 3 areas. One of the only teams to have done that. And this time they've done body drag. They did it last time as well. Yeah, last time they developed, they did that two races ago for that one. But they have now upgraded again on body drag. It's slower when you're starting out, so they haven't done much there. This is taken way too seriously. Good fun though. It's taken seriously, yeah. Of course it is. Call it a hobby, call it a sport, call it, whatever you want to call it nowadays. But there's potential. There's money on the end of this. At the end nowadays, there's prize money, so people do take it vaguely seriously as well. For that reason, it does factor in. That's different this year than any other. But hey, we enjoy it. Nordson next up as well. Hawkeye and Nordson technically in a little bit of a battle, I suppose, but they're pretty safe where they are. They've not done anything this time out, but they did bring 2 last time, so it makes sense, I suppose. But they've got a pretty decent car anyway. They were top car last time out on chassis. Red Archer, this midfield battle is so tight, it's ridiculous. But Red Archer is still winning out on that at the moment. They brought 2 upgrades to this one as well, front wing downforce and body drag, in a car that resembles near enough Edge car, with probably 1 upgrade down on the front wing. Otherwise it's pretty identical, so they could be doing something there. But I think that's a good car, particularly at the moment. These midfield teams seem to be having one round very well, depending on their upgrades, and then poor rounds, so this could look like a good Red Archer round, depending very much on their lineup, which we'll come on to. Somebody who did have a good round though, as we were talking about, is Eval. In this case 4th place for them, makes a huge difference. They only do that as they have been doing every few rounds, and they're right up there again. But again, new team. They brought an upgrade still, so they brought body drag, but they have maxed out diffuser and done a range of other places. They've sort of tried bits and pieces out. Not much of a time game realistically on that, but hey, not too bad. It's still, like I say, every little bit does help in this mid pack. Flag to flag. This is a team that has stopped developing now. It's kind of clear as we get on, as we'll come on to the overall graphic for the whole league. They have maxed out the 2 what we're calling the key areas, so everything else after that is kind of making very small gains. So they're still not going to be miles off pace, but development wise they are starting to get to that stage. But that could be a clever move in next year. They're a new team again. Save the funds, save the R&D. You've learnt enough this year. You're in that midfield battle, but worst case scenario still means you're still alright. There's still a couple of teams that are miles off you, so you'll be alright in that respect, I suppose. Also makes sense as to why the driver lineup may not have changed. Adonis, they have done body drag this time out, so they've got quite, Adonis have had a pretty seriously decent car most of the season really. They've done the right areas, they've done the front wing, along the edge sort of route, they've done a good body drag element now, so they're gained about half a tenth there, theoretically, through that. Storm, still developing madly. I kind of thought this team had given up a little bit, but it doesn't. I mean, they might have done, but it doesn't seem as though they have from a development point of view anyway. So they've done wet and diffuser, which is fine, and they're doing a bit of rear. They started now doing rear wing downforce for the first time. They have done front wing downforce quite heavily and body drags similarly as some teams around them, like the Adonis and things like that. But to put rear wing on now, so those cars are very similar. Whether that is a factor that Menno is also sort of in and out of that team, then maybe, not sure. Interesting that the teams are very similar in car wise. Zurich, not bought anything here, but they've got a reasonable car again. Again, the 2 areas maxed out. Front wing downforce is pretty strong. They've done a little bit on rear wing and body drag, so it's a car that's reasonable enough. It doesn't deserve to be as far down as it is, but nothing extra to last time. Madcape. Madcape here, again, not brought anything out. Could be a team where they go, but they did bring developments last time, so they probably haven't given up necessarily yet. And rightly so, they were in a battle at the back, effectively. It doesn't sound like it's worth it, but, they're now at the stage where actually they're catching Zurich pretty heavily, and they could push themselves into that midfield battle, which is so close points-wise that, they've got 3 rounds, and they had 3 good rounds, double point scores like they had, which is doable, definitely, particularly with certain lineups that they could put together, with the Queekle and Brewer elements in there as well, and Tobias on a whole different ball, on his day, can equally be scoring points. So if they can start scoring these points, most of these teams around them are not scoring double points finishes, regardless of how high up they are. Even Eval's 4th meant it was only 1 car that was scoring, means you can really move yourselves up away from the pack. This is a team that, at the midway point, we were written off with 4 points. So they've made a huge change around, and that does bode well for next year if they can keep this kind of thing together. So fingers crossed for them. Madcape have though run away from Street Fighter. This is well, where to start with this? I mean, anyway, let's go for the basics. So they're not brought anything to this one yet. They have been doing wet and diffuser previously on the last few, so we did praise them for that, and they've been catching up to the rest of every other car that had already decided to do that and knew what they were doing. So they've done front wing downforce massively. Last race was a track where you'd have thought that front wing downforce might have done quite well. I mean, the results kind of show for what they are. So now we're getting into more rear wing tracks, which they're probably less strong at potentially, and I can't see this getting any better for them. So yeah, I think they're just needing to get to the end of the season now, really, and we'll come on to relegation battles in a minute. So that's chassis, that's all the cars, that's all the teams, and that's what they've managed to develop onto the cars this time out. Where you've seen teams with 2 developments, they're unlikely to bring much next time out. They might be able to get 1 in, but very unlikely to bring anything proper compared to some of the others. Some of the ones that have not brought anything this time out might bring a lot next time out. If they do that, though, they haven't got anything for Abu Dhabi, which is the final round. So it's interesting where people are choosing to use their developments. Engines, we saw 3 developments last time from Martix, Quasar and Talos, which mean nothing from Valiant, but Valiant have brought something this time out. So Valiant have brought mapping, so their mapping now is at 40%, which is by far the highest on mapping, which is your boost level. Compared that to like the Talos, for example, that's going to be a huge advantage in qualifying, particularly in qualifying trim. Obviously using more boost does use more, using higher boost levels for longer means more fuel use, and so you need more fuel economy or fuel efficiency developments. So people like Talos have more fuel efficiency, which means you can either run less fuel and have less weight, or you can use the same amount of fuel but use boost for longer and do it that way. So, or you can have a mix in the middle and go for someone like a Martix or Quasar, which are turning out to be very, very similar engines. One with slightly more power and one with slightly more mapping. So, I mean, it is interesting the way everyone's going, and I'd imagine that you look at that and go, well, Valiant have done theirs for this time out. The other 3 probably do theirs for Brazil next time, I'd imagine, or some will be saving theirs all for Abu Dhabi at the end, because you do not carry over engine R&D points. It wipes the slate clean completely at the end of the year. So there's no point in leaving anything on the table. Even if it gives you 1% for Abu Dhabi, you do it, don't you? Or at least I do. We'll find out what everyone else does. But yeah, I think that's I think this year there's, well, you can argue it, I suppose, but I don't think any manufacturer's particularly gone wrong this year as such. But it depends very much on how your team, if you're a customer, how you like your car set up. So if the Talos engine may very much suit you if you want good fuel efficiency. But if you want good qualifying pace, you need the place on the grid, then you might have wanted a Valiant. It depends very much on where you want to be and your team's driving style, basically, I suppose. So that's engines. But the engine choices then. So everyone has 6 engines throughout the season. For each car, you have to make them last, basically. You can buy 2 more, only if you've used the other 6 at some stage. You can buy the others. It gives you a back of the grid penalty and a £1 million fine from the in-game finances. So we'll have a look at ACR. So a good example actually, Risto Capit there has taken Unit 7. You can see that with a little star next to it. 100%, so it's a brand new unit. It does mean he gets a back of the grid penalty. You can see underneath the other 3 engines he's still got use of. So he's got use of engine 1 if he needed to with 29%, and then 5 and 6 with 39 respectively. So you look at those, and all those 3 engines would probably get a round out of them. So actually that probably could have got him to the end of the season, just about. There's 3 rounds left, but let's use a nice fresh engine. Why not? And we'll come on to connotations of all this in a minute. Alex Siebel, your championship leader at the moment, has chosen not to do that though. He, due to his misfortune earlier in the year, has a lot fresher engines than Risto. So he's using Unit 4, which is a 56% engine. So there is going to be an interesting power difference between the 2 of them. It's most of the season we see teammates, particularly ACR has, but you see teammates. Yeah, you do see teammates keeping the same sort of level. So you normally go, right, they're testing together. People will have the weakest engine at 30-odd%, or somebody will have them at 60-odd%. It's interesting to see the difference. You don't often get to see it in power between the 2 teammates. Edge have also done the same element. So Jarl has got a used engine at 39%, hasn't taken a fresh unit yet. Petter Burlak, on the other hand, has taken Unit 7 and 100% engine and the back of the grid that is with that. So that you've got two of what is the four. You think we got. You've actually got Petter that's in the drivers' title battle with a back of the grid penalty, and you've got Risto with a back of the grid penalty as well. So it's one edge, one ACI, back of the grids completely. While we're on it, you've also got Jarl and Alex both with grid penalties due to incidents in the last race at Japan. So they've also got back of grid penalties. So you won't see any of the leading two teams at the front of the grid, which makes very interesting race, I think, going forwards. It's not going to be your usual suspects at the front straight away. Anyway, to get the good results and the results that these two teams need, they're going to have to battle through from the back, which makes potentially interesting strategy choices or just outright speed. That 100% engines that Petter and Risto have could really work well for them, potentially, but they have got to navigate that traffic. Evolution, Dennis Jordan has also chosen to do that. He's got a fresh engine in Unit 7, whereas Bock has not chosen to do that. He's got a 70% engine, so it's reasonable enough. And we'll get into that. So Dennis Jordan as well also takes the back of the grid penalty, so also won the race winner this year, right out there as well, so he's also going to be back there. Potentially there's, Dennis brings up there that Jarl, had he known, people try and get away with it, so if you know you've got a penalty coming, so for example, if you look back and you've done your qualifying lap and you've cut on your qualifying lap, even by a minute part, that's straight away a back of the grid penalty. So in that circumstance, you may as well go, I'll take a fresh engine, you've got a double back of the grid, sure you're back of all the back of the grid people, but again it's only a couple of places, so you're not actually losing out in that respect, whereas if you had to take a fresh engine in a different race, you get back of the grid anyway. So in Jarl's case, where he had, the penalties come out after you have to make the decision. So it's either a mistake in that didn't think he would have a penalty, and so didn't want to take it, because Petter did. It was obviously a decision made. You've got the other factor in it that he could appeal the decision, in which case it's unlikely to have been looked at between now and tomorrow night's race, in which case it wouldn't apply to this round anyway, and it would actually apply to the next one, where he would then be able to choose his engines. If they were playing strategy-wise, as a manager, that would be something that I would have probably considered, and I would not be surprised to see happen. He has already spoken, he may appeal it, or it might just, it might be that they go, well actually, and this is a bit devious potentially, but if you go, well, we didn't cut a qualifying lap, so I'm not taking a back of the grid penalty. What's to say, if you know you're going to have, that's the only downside with this whole way of doing it. If this stage of the season where you get to the point, at best case scenario, you've used your engines quite wisely, you've not crashed out that much, you're going to, almost in your title battle, you probably do need a fresh engine at some stage, so you're going to have to choose to take it. So if you know you're going to take it for a round, why would you not cut your qualifying lap the round before? Get pole. Run away with it. Obviously you can't if you've got the grid penalty as well, but in normal circumstances, what's to stop you doing that? You just end up with double back of the grid, but you know you've got pole for one round anyway. You fly off into the distance. I don't know. Just thoughts. Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts there. If you were management guys, or if you are managers in the chat, what would you do? Has he made a mistake? Is it tactical? Is it clever? I don't know. Epic. They've got, again, very similar engines to each other. It's the first time I've seen this. So 70% and 68% engines. They haven't taken another new one yet either. Fournier has previously, but they're reasonable enough engines. They've only done one round. Hawkeye, Duval and Costa. Yeah, 93% engine for Duval and Costa with a 79. Again, no fresh engines, but reasonably enough. Fresh enough to not make huge differences, not like they've massively worn like a 39% engine, anything like that. Nordson, again, using the very similar one, 69 and 70 with Friedrich and Cooper, keeping the same lineup there once more. Tactical cutting is highly unsporting. I don't like the idea of that. Fair enough. That's good moles there from flag to flag. Nice to see. But it may not be down to team choices. That can easily be a driver choice as well. Who knows? I'm not saying Jarl would be like that. Jarl may not be at all. I'm only thinking and everyone knows I've got questionable morals as it is, so I'm only thinking outside the box, what you might or may not do. So, hey. Ooh, I've messed Red Archer up. Red Archer are going to be massive. Let's make them smaller. They'll end up like, what's that, is it a Beamer? Is it in the pack that's massive? That'll do, it's a bit small, but probably do us. Speculating again on the driver lineup, but we are going with Sandy Choda, who I think is going to be in it again. 51% engine unit, and if it's Matthew Willey, it makes sense for them both to do it again. They haven't run out of races or anything like that. With a 6% engine, so they've got reasonable enough engines. And actually, you look underneath, they probably won't need to take a fresh engine this year unless they really want to, or they end up with the back of the grid. They've got plenty of fresh engines there. Eval, like Kilk, has already previously taken a fresh engine, but he's not using it this time round. So he's using 69% engine unit 4, and Tida is using 68% engine. Again, with plenty of engines to see them through to the end of the year. Flag to flag, they've got 68% engine in Michael Ayres. Again, he's got plenty of fresh engines, and we won't get into why. Mark Hutchison, on the other hand, with his good finishing record, using quite a worn engine at 38%, does still have an engine there at 69, which is enough to do 2 races. So again, won't need to waste money in their circumstances on getting new engines before the end of the year. So fine, we'll just see them. You know, they will be down on pace on some potential teams, and we will see potentially big differences in pace towards the end of the season. And this is one of those tracks where you could see it because of the type of track it is, quite a power track. Next round as well, Brazil, where if you've got a car at 30% on the engine against a brand new fresh 100% engine, that could be quite a bit. You know, we could be talking a tenth or so there just alone, whereas we were looking at the teams spending millions just gaining a tenth previously just on an engine choice makes it as well. Adonis, they have well, I think John Mahomes is still staying in. We were told he's going to do the whole 4 races. Didn't have the best of rounds, but it was sort of first thing thrown in. So he's got fresh engines near enough. So he's got 61% this time out. He has still got a 91% engine, as you'll see underneath there. So that'll see him out to the end of the year. Kasdorp on a 58% engine, unit 5. Again, he's got a 69% engine there, so should be able to see out the rest of the year as well without penalties. Storm, a massive as well. That's not good, is it? You can tell I rushed this, can't you, at this time of night? I did only finish work at like 10:30, so give me some slack, guys, come on. It's not Alex's fault with his great graphics, it's me not putting them out right. Let's show you Storm. Storm have got, well, they've not had the best of seasons, so they've got fresh engines kicking around really. Sabatovos has got a fresh unit 6, so he's got 100% engine there. He'll be absolutely fine to the end of the season. And we assume Kosmala still in that car. He had a reserve contract. Would make sense for him to try it again instead of Menno. Good choice by them. He's got a 96% engine. Yeah, worth a try, isn't it? I like it. So they've got good engines there in that Storm. Compared to some of those others around them as well. Dino Paolini has a 68% engine, and Craig Patterson, I'm not sure if he's going to be in it or we're going to see Woopke back. But either one, both they're going to have the 69% engine regardless, so very similar for them. And again, looking at Dino's car, he may get to the end of the season with that. He'd have effectively another race on this engine, and he'd probably use that 46% engine he's got there as well, see him out to the end of the season. And then there's a fresh engine on the other car still to go, which they can then use for the next 2 rounds as well. So they're looking alright to the end of the season. Mad Cape, well, your guess is as good as mine for the lineup. I think it's Jerome back in on this one, but it may be Brewer, but I think it's Jerome. And then Olsen, because I don't think Jerome was meant to drive last time out anyway. So they've got fresh units though, without the back of the grid penalties, because they've still got lots of fresh units after their horrendous start to the season. Craig will not be racing, I'm told. Interesting, okay. So great if it's Woopke back, then that's fine. It makes sense, you know, great drivers. SRS have got slightly used units of 79 and 68%. We've seen them choose some interesting choices previously where they've used more worn engines than they needed to, but in this circumstance they've got these slightly worn units, and they've both cars have got 100% units left to get them through the next 2 rounds, so they'll be fine without engine penalties as well. So yeah, Mene must be charcoal black from all the roasting. I think that was Liam DeWalt's engine that caused that problem with all the fire and problems they had blowing up and things like that. It certainly wasn't from Mano's speed, but nonetheless, you know, great guy, but just the whole league just moved up a whole other level this year. And there's a few drivers that have, you know, and team managers that have realised that and made the appropriate decisions to try and better their team. Yeah, and other ones who have decided, well, actually, a bit like we said with flag to flag, you know, if you legitimately went down the route that some other teams have done, there's, you know, that's probably the one that stands out to me as, you know, and Michael's in the chat. Nice to see you, but you know, you can't be proud of your own finishing record. So I would say you've got a frugal manager there who is doing, you know, trying to keep the money, trying to keep that sort of element going, with knowing that the benefit of bringing in a new driver and the cost involved on signing on fees and all that sort of element probably don't outweigh changing you at this stage when there's not as much on the line. Whether or not they make next year's decisions on driver lineups will be interesting though. So that's the cars. You've got tyre choices next. Everyone has to choose 3 tyre choices, compounds. They have to use at least 2. So we've seen quite the majority of the field taking the 3 softest, which is so that's the ultra soft, super soft, and soft tyres. So that's ACR, Edge, Evolution, Epic, Hawkeye, Nordstrom, Red Archer, Eval, Flag to Flag, and Zurich. Interestingly, that is the top. Is it top 8, maybe 9 teams in order? I think have all taken that option. You'd think if everyone does that, can that possibly be the wrong way of doing it? Not sure. Anyway, we've got some other teams that went slightly differently. So some were ultra soft. So in this case, 2 teams were ultra soft, soft, and mediums. So slightly harder compounds. And they've gone. That's Adonis and Street Fighter. You've then got a team that has not got the ultra soft tyres at all with us here. So they've only got the super softs, softs, and the mediums, and that's Storm. And then you've got the ultra softs, mediums, and yes, take a look, guys. It might be the only time you haven't seen this tyre in ages. The hard tyre in the Mad Cape. I think literally the last time I legitimately saw it used was Australia, and it didn't work out that well. Just as we say. I could be wrong. Maybe someone else has tried it in the meantime. Actually, no. Having said that, didn't. No, it was mediums, wasn't it? That flag to flag did very well with at Monaco and things like that. Yeah, Magnet tyres look the same as Adonis and Red Bull. Do they? On the chart now. Has that changed as well? Because if that does, that's. Let me do a double check while I'm on for everybody. I'm sure everybody's loading up the same table as me now. So final check for me. If not, no, they've definitely still got the hard show in there. So sorry, that's still showing. It's a hard tyre. I know you haven't seen it in ages, but it's a hard. It's slightly more orange. It's kind of what that colour is. So there we go. Did you do it on hards, flag to flag? I thought that was mediums, so fair enough. If you did hards at Monaco, that's perfectly fine. I'm sure lots of us get hard when Monaco comes around, but yes, you did. Well, you say it didn't work, Cameron, but you did score points out of it, if I remember rightly. So yeah, ultimately that's not too bad, is it? So, but it didn't. Yeah, so far no one's managed to do particularly well off it. But Mad Cape, I suppose if you're down the back and you're trying to catch up on other teams, doing something different might be a legitimate way to do it. So maybe we'll see. Storm one's interesting. No ultra softs on there. I didn't particularly. Let's just have a quick gander. They used unit 6s, so they're not brand new units. So yeah, not too sure. I could have understood it if they didn't want to qualify. So if they knew they were going to have back of the grids, something like that, maybe they would make sense doing that. But maybe not. So I don't know quite what's going on there. But anyway, let's look at the overall development chart, shall we? So this is total R&D points used across the whole season so far. To be honest, it doesn't mean an awful lot. It just gives you an idea of who's developed the most, so who's put as much stuff on the car. It depends where you put that, of course, where you've chosen to. But yeah, so you look at that and go, Edge has actually developed the most of any team on the grid altogether, followed by ACR. Red Archer up there, you look at Hawkeye, you look right down the bottom though, and Flag to Flag, over 100 points less than Edge. That's a good third of the car, not there. But yeah, so there is a bit of difference from a development point of view, but most teams still developing is nice to see at this stage of the season. In previous years, we have seen quite a lot of teams drop, really early, not really early, but past the halfway point in the season. Some teams go, you know what, that's us done. But we've got some new teams in this year, so it's a legitimate reason to do it, I suppose. What that means, though, so that's the overall development of R&D points, but that's not the speed. Very different. So that is purely on how much teams have developed the car. What we're going to come up now is the actual car development, as in what we think that means in terms of speed. Again, few providers I provide every time because everyone always comments and has a go at it. It's just the chassis, does not include the engine whatsoever, type or engine wear. Either one do not count. So you can probably factor in maybe a tenth, maybe even 2 tenths either way, depending on the engine manufacturer and the engine life percentage on it as well. Basically, this is also a theoretical time, so it's not a time anyone's actually set. It's a time that, based on the upgrades that they've done on percentages, we've mapped that into a certain time gain. Again, that is also done on a fast circuit, so it would be very different on a twisty. It might work quite well here actually at USA, but compared to some other tracks where we were at Singapore, for example, a completely different track, would factor in very differently to different upgrades. But we'll go into this one now, so we'll go into the car upgrades. So we think this is how this is looking for this round. So we're looking at ACR at the top this time out for speed, we think. We've then got Edge just behind you. Still looking at the time difference there is still tiny. So all the way to Red Archer, Adonis, Hawkeye, Storm, Epic. I mean, we're still not talking 2 temps yet. Missouri, Evo, like I said, though, anything sort of under 2 temps can still be you could still actually have theoretically the best car when you factor in engines and engine choices, let alone putting the driver in there as well, who can make a big difference. Drivers themselves, we've shown, can make up 2 to 3 temps anyway, even in same cars. So that's quite exciting as well. You still look at Street Fighter. They did catch up to be within 3 temps last time. Expect that to go down again next time if they keep developing those 2 key areas. But yes, Red Bull and Flag to Flag starting to be a little bit adrift, I suppose. We're still talking 3-4 temps though. It's not a huge amount. But yeah, if you're in a Red Bull and you're potentially 4 temps a lap down on the ACR just in the chassis, then you factor in, for example, you factor in against, say, Risto's fresh engine at 100% as well, maybe another 1/10. Maybe you look at it in qualifying pace and go, well, actually they don't use the Valiant either, so the boost to factor in is probably another maybe 1/10, maybe 2 temps. Suddenly you're nearly a second behind a lap. In best case scenario, in qualifying trim, very different strategies and tyre choices and all that element, but just to, that's quite demoralising, I suppose, at the end of the season. Which is why they're trying to pick up odd points, and the ACR and Edge at the top there are trying to win titles, I suppose. Yeah. Let's have a look at some of the battles then that we're going to have. Because we have got some connotations coming out, of course. We are 3 rounds from the end, including this one. And we've got ACR versus Edge. So this is our Teams Championship. This is the title battle going on. This gives you an idea of where the points are currently. And also the results for the last few rounds, well, second half of the season so far. Which has been mixed. It's been, each round sort of sways one to the other. You could argue Edge is probably doing a better job second half of the season, whereas ACR did better job at the start of the season, I suppose. Both teams have run into issues when it comes to reliability, be that German internet, be that accidents and problems going on, lag. Lots of stuff happens in esports as well, a bit like having failures on your car in real motorsport. That's our equivalent, isn't it, I suppose, internet issues. So these are the two. So where do we think the title's going, guys? We've actually got, this is the first time legitimately we could see a drivers' champion crowned tomorrow. So Siebel currently leads the championship by 42 points now after his penalty last time out. So it's 42 points. So he, with 2 rounds to go, and obviously, well, 3 rounds to go, at the end of this round coming, there's 50 points available. So he needs to be the driver's title holder, he needs 50 points ahead. So the mathematicians amongst you will know that's 8 points difference here. So basically, he needs to be champion. Alex Siebel needs to outscore Petter Burlak by 8 points exactly, or more, to be driver's champion, because he got more wins and probably would have more wins than even if Petter won the last 2 rounds. Or put another way, Petter has to score 8 more points. No, we'll say 8 points. So yeah, if Alex outscores Petter by 8 points, then he wins the driver's title. Petter, of course, starting from the back of the grid as well, makes it quite difficult for him to score maximum points here. Not impossible. Fresh engine. And we've seen some interesting strategies and good tyre wear from Petter in the past as well. That's going to be interesting. So let's see how this works out, shall we? Obviously, over 3 rounds, chances are unlikely, I suppose, that Petter would win all 3 of them. But you never know. It could easily happen. He wouldn't need to win all 3. But I'm just obviously going on the side of ACR. But actually, that said, this round particularly, with all the penalties of everybody, it's all a bit up in the air. You got 2 guys with fresh engines, you got 2 without the fresh engines, but everyone with certain penalties, which means they're going to be in mid-packs. They're going to have to overtake an awful lot of guys. Who's got friends on this grid sometimes as well can make a big difference. It's who knows you well enough to battle fairly but close to you. I'm just going to have to avoid the police, so I'll just put you on silent for a minute. Yeah, I think that worked. Oh no, maybe not. Everything's happening around here. I'd love to say we're coming to put out some fires that I've been setting tonight, but I haven't really been on quite the same form, I'm afraid. But no matter. So yeah, obviously I know where that's going, but between you guys, maybe you'll have some difference of opinions between ACR and Edge. There's some battles up and down the grid though, not just for the title now. So you start looking and going, well, we've got this one's been going on a little while as well. The battle of the new teams at the top, Epic and Evolution. The tale of 2 halves of the season really. Evolution to be just absolutely destroying Epic in the last few rounds. Mainly having had Boch on board as well. Now they're scoring well with 2 cars. But again, we were back of the grid here from Dennis Jordan. Epic could really take advantage, even though they haven't brought any upgrades to this time out. They're not that many points behind. They could still catch that up with a few rounds to go. So yeah, some interesting comments going on there, guys. So I think this time out, Epic could outscore them because of the penalties and such that that Evolution have. But I think at the moment on raw pace, recent events would show that Evolution probably have it, and probably will have it come the end of the season. We keep going down the grid. There's still other battles. Hawkeye and Norton. It's getting closer, guys, but Hawkeye do keep scoring a reasonable amount of points. Norton is very hit and miss. We've seen certain rounds though where other people have failed. People like David Fiduk, with his experience, has managed to drag that car up into the upper reaches of the points, basically giving that team some points at all. And this could be a round that people like David does very well. We've I've been told Fournier got a back of it as well, is he? Wow, okay. Well, that makes that slightly different with Epic then. But it doesn't change my mind here on these two. In Hawkeye and Norton should be the guys that are looking to capitalise really here and really go after some good results. I was particularly looking there at David Fiduk, where we've seen him already get to the top 5, 4th, when pushed, when certain people have fallen off the road, when people have caused accidents, when there's been issues, he's been right there to capitalise. Not a million miles off the pace, even if his qualifying pace has been shocking this year. So when you've got the ACRs, the Edge, one Norwegian now, one Evolution, one Epic, all back of the grid or grid penalties. These are the teams that will be right at the top end again, and you might even find people. We've seen hi Yuri's in here as well now. He might well be somebody who'll be trying to get out there, but he's got a penalty as well. So again, that's not happening. So who's going to take a pole position here? Actually sitting on pole position though. Liam DeWall has technically had one of these previously. Not actually sat on pole position, but he got there anyway. So there's those sort of things where maybe who's going to get up to the front end will be very tight. Bok could get there. We could see Milan up there. These sort of guys maybe. Or we're going to get some surprises from down here. Right, Kilk could be one from Eval. He's done very well as well. He's had some good top 4 finishes this year. Red Archer, depending on the people they field, could be there. The car is good enough to win races. I think that'd be a very popular result, to be fair, if they manage to get any. I think of those two, actually, this time out. Okay, the problem is with Red Archer, I don't know what the lineup's going to be exactly. Didn't exactly thrill me last time out. But then Eval, it's a one-car team most of the time, so you get a right Kilk on his day, he'd outscore Red Archer on his own. But you look at that and go, actually, Red Archer, if they can get 2 point scores going, which they have done in the past, but last round wasn't one for them. Let's stick with Red Archer. The car's built well for it, but then again, the Eval's got the Valiant. We'll go Red Archer. Middle of the pack, flag to flag versus Adonis. Yeah, very close, but again, not a lot of points being scored by either team. Michael is pleading with me, no 3-0 to me. How to get there? Yeah. So Adonis doing, actually, I'm going with Adonis on this one. The team is better. Flag to flag giving up. They don't develop the car anymore. They're not particularly bothered. They're keeping drivers that aren't going to score points. Well, I'm going to do well, shall we say. Everyone else that I've... you know what? No, let's not keep going at Ayres. We've got another 2 rounds to go at Ayres yet. Let's hope he improves his finishing rate and maybe score some points for me. But it's so close, there's 2 points between the two. I'm going with Adonis on this one though, even with the back of the grid penalty for Yuri. I haven't even looked at flag to have flag have got any, to be fair, but I don't think they have. We go with Storm and Zurich. This is we're getting down to the dire straits now. Storm, I'm not quite sure what they're playing at without a qualifying tyre and things like that. They have got fresh engines, whereas Zurich, potentially with the Woopke back. See, Woopke and Dino should be a really good partnership. It was in Super Cup. The car's not too bad either. I just don't know what they're doing wrong there. Yeah, the Talos unit might not be suiting them. This might be what I was talking about, where teams don't suit certain engines necessarily. They may not need a fuel save. They may be better off with a good qualifier and good power and do it in that way. Yeah, let's give this to Zurich. They're slightly scoring better. They're more likely to in my eyes than Storm. Although Storm have got rid of the one that was dragging them down, but still. And then our favourite one, of course, Mad Cape Red Bull. I think the points there over recent events speak for themselves. We're now at the stage where Mad Cape are nearly double the points of Red Bull. That's true, Mark. Apologies that threw you under the bus there with the flag to flag team, I suppose. But, you run as a team. You live by each other's results as well. I'm looking at teams here, not necessarily just drivers on their own. So yes, Mark has had an impressive finishing rate, and actually the team relies on him purely near enough for the points, which in itself says a lot, doesn't it? Just imagine what Hutchinson could have done with a good teammate and a team that kept developing to the end. Maybe, who knows? Maybe we'll find out next year. In the meantime though, Mad Cape versus Red Bull. I'm definitely bunting on Mad Cape on this one. I don't mind if you have Jerome or if you have Daniel in the car, or even both, which would be great. Again, if you have one or the other, then to be honest, one of those that driver is more likely to score more points than both Red Bulls put together, as proven by the rounds. Well, yeah, pretty much the last 6 rounds. The times where Red Bull have outscored Mad Cape is where they've DNF'd. So Red Bull have scored a point, basically. Yeah. Win or lose as a team, Michael Ayres. Yeah. Do you really want to live by that? Is that really what you want to be singing and dancing about? Okay. Respect to you though. You still come out and you chat, and you are in this chat, and you obviously are involved in everything going on. So you know, jokes aside, you know, you're here, you're trying your stuff. I'll give you a bit of credit for that. So that's all the stuff there. On those last two though, and anyone else around that area, let's talk relegation. We're at that stage of the season now. We're looking at it. I know we've spoken about it a little bit in the past. We've spoken about, when we were talking very small points for these guys and they were miles adrift. No, they're not a million miles off Missouri and Storm. Well, Madcape aren't, anyway. So, relegation isn't, although it is a ladder system here, we've got an interesting situation where actually it's not all down to, if you finish bottom, you get relegated. It doesn't work that way. That's not how it is. It's over 3 seasons anyway as an average, so it's not necessarily who finishes last this time out. Most times, there's nothing in the rules that says anyone's excluded, so first year teams could in theory go down. In the past we have seen them being given a year's grace. Madcape were actually given it last year as a year's grace potentially, where they go, well actually, yes you were poor, but it was your first year, we'll let you carry on. Obviously things have developed a bit more in the league and actually standards have raised a lot. So is that acceptable anymore? Now this year actually has been brilliant in that we've barely seen any teams not bring 2 cars to the grid every round. So that used to be an element that you would factor in. It's not purely a promotion and relegation thing. One thing that is in the rules is that the Super Cup winning team is promoted. Or is considered for promotion, I think is the wording of it. But in the past that's always been promoted. Fine. If there's space, you can't just keep adding people to the grid and making it bigger and bigger and bigger. So you have to then have a team drop out. That's either they choose to drop out, which may save teams here. So if we think any of the current teams decide to leave of their own fruition, either from the league or drop down, as we've seen previously, and you know, they might decide this is now too much for them, then that would leave a space anyway, and everyone else could be saved. Or the league admins in the past have chosen to do that and relegate a team as well because they did particularly poorly. I'm thinking in the past that's been like Green Stripes and ST Racing. I think in the past have both had that issue where they've dropped down into Super Cup, so they haven't left the league completely. It's different to certain teams we've seen in the past where they've just left, which is fine. That's their own choice. Stupid choice, but a choice. Whereas teams that have dropped down to the series below can then potentially come back if they did rather well. I know people like Green Stripes and ST are trying to do that. So we end up in an interesting conundrum. We saw a lot of new teams last time. We've got a team in the Super Cup who has now scored over 1,000 points and set a new Super Cup record with 2 rounds still to go, so they're going to be miles up there. You know, so you can't really, if you were it's all an admin's decision though. There's nothing that is set in stone with this. If you look at that and go, well, Scrutineer, Basilia have to be promoted surely on that basis. There is of course the question mark around, you know, secondary teams and where their drivers come from, things like that, and of course that is a factor that is a factor that admins will consider, I'm sure, and speak to their management. That might not be the lineup they're fielding next year. It may be. I don't know yet what's going on. I don't think they'll know until GPVWC Day anyway if they get accepted or not. So that'll be interesting. But if you're looking purely from a competition point of view, I'd argue that team in Super Cup is probably better than over half the grid that currently resides in Super League. So could you not promote them? You know, and then on that basis, do you go, well, actually, do we have to relegate somebody then? If we do, you don't necessarily have to relegate the bottom team, but they're considered for relegation. So in this case, it's looking like Red Bull at the moment. But if you're an admin, do you weigh up the factor of the name? Do you consider that? It would be in my consideration as admin. It's not purely on a basis here of you know, top and bottom teams. This is a factor of, this is the league, this is the Super League, this is a product that the league is promoting. In which case, are Red Bull banking on that? Are Red Bull Street Fighter going, well, we're not going to get relegated anyway, let's just concentrate on next year. And that's why the results haven't been there the last few rounds, that's why it's not so great, that's why they're not so bothered in that respect, maybe, I don't know. That's how it comes across. Not too sure. But I'd love to hear your thoughts, guys. Would you, if Red Bull carried on as they are now, and Magate carried on as they are, would you relegate Street Fighter? Would you keep them because of the name? Would you promote Scrutineer? Or would you just think, well, we'll wait and see if anyone leaves? Which I think there's a couple of teams that might. There's question marks in my mind over a couple of teams. You might be able to guess them anyway. But I think there's a couple of teams where you think, maybe they're not necessarily planning for next year yet. There might be, some turmoils in the teams this year. There's things that you can get. The SE winners' decision. All teams are asked if they would like to be promoted all the way down, and if they'd like to. If not, would they like to take part in the series that they're currently in, or if they weren't accepted into that current series, would they drop down? So, for example, a Super League team, if they apply for Super League and they said, because everyone in Super League, if they want to stay, will apply to say we want to stay, even if they're bottom of the standings. And so the admins go, well, no, but you would be accepted into Super Cup. That sort of element they can do. So everyone is asked what their preference is and if they would accept it otherwise. I think we might see us getting to that stage where admins will need to make a decision as to whether it is what's best for the league and the brand, or what's best from a competition point of view, as in bringing in and having the best drivers in the top league, regardless of what named team that is. Could be interesting. Otherwise, otherwise, we get into that stage in the coming years as an esport where if you don't have a brand or a real motorsport team with you in some respect, or a sponsor, where you then can't be in Super League, I don't think that should work either. Everyone loves the fact Formula 1 has independent teams, like Williams and people like that, of course. But maybe it's not purely down to a Red Bull versus Rfactor. It looks it at the moment. It might not be down to just that. We've seen the past, 2 or 3 teams, or even last year, was it 4? 4 teams new into Super League. Yeah. I mean, Cameron, you're right there. It depends if Rfactor keep their drivers, though. The problem we've got there is that teams are accepted in December. Driver lineups aren't really known until January. Can you retrospectively kick a team out? I don't know. Would you want to? Argument being, those 2 drivers, would probably beat an awful lot on the field this year. Obviously, there is factors in contracts and who's signed to where and what, but you could make that. There's a few drivers you can make that claim about as well. Let's not be silly here. There's an awful lot of Super League teams who work together in some respect. Those of you who run over at former Simracing will know a similar idea over there. To what degree that is a very different matter, and up for huge debate, no doubt. But I just thought it was nice. We get into that stage where we don't want to be debating this last race of the season as a community. Let's look at it now, because I think we're getting to that stage where actually, if a team doesn't leave of their own fruition, then we're going to have an interesting choice from the admins. And I'd love to think we were still talking competition wise, but I worry we are now very much talking brand based. But that's me. I'm just here spouting rubbish, basically, and spouting my opinion, which most people disregard regardless, so that's great, isn't it? Particularly Cameron and his driver choices. That's 6-0 now, we're working on that. Anyways, think we're probably there. We're going to be ready for next race. Everyone aware of what's going on? So we've got an awful lot of contagions. There's the first round where the driver's title can be won. Alexei will be trying to do his best to win that. Obviously, Peter Burlak will be doing his best to not let him do that and to keep it going into the final rounds. It's great that we've got to this stage already. This season seems to have gone like that. I don't know. Maybe you guys think it's going very slowly, but to me it's gone very fast. I seem to be talking. These shows seem to be coming round and round very quickly. I'm loving though how certain teams have changed and evolved throughout the season. We may have to do a few specials and see what's going on 5-1. Where did I lose 1? Wow. Okay. I think that must be the first thing that is that 5-1 would be definitely the first like score that Ayres has made of any value, surely. Hey. Anyway, so we'll get past that. So races tomorrow. That's Thursday, or now today, I think, if you're watching wherever you are watching, probably today now. On this channel, on GPVWC's YouTube. It's going to be at 7:30. You get qualifying just after that, and then the race at about 8 o'clock. Also going to be on WTF1's Facebook at 8 o'clock onwards, so you get the full race from there. Some exciting people. The fact, if you've loved this already, we've got 2 more shows of this at least, and then I'll probably do something in the off season as well. Tell you a little bit more about stuff that's going on there, because there is loads going on. Michael Ayres can't wait for next year. No more roasting. Is that because you're not driving? Are you not going to be there? Hey, maybe not. We'll see. I gave him credit. Damn, for turning up. I'm too nice. It's too late. I've obviously got too nice in my old age now. Maybe that's it. But we'll get past that. Maybe I'll bring myself down. It depends how we do. If we win the title, I might be rather nice next time out. If we don't, I might be rather mean. But yes, we've got drivers' titles aplenty, we've got relegation battles going on, and a midfield that is within a few points of each other. Incredible stuff going on. And cars that, apart from a couple, are within under 2 temps. So drivers can make such a difference. Utterly fantastic. I can't wait to see what's going on. I know the commentators are going to be there. It's going to be great to watch that as well. Make sure you join in and watch that. After the race tomorrow, we will also have a show. Lee Davison running his Loose Wheel Nuts show going on over on simnews.tv, where drivers, team managers and people can join in, literally go onto Discord and chat away live and give you opinions, tell us what happened in the race, anything that's going on that way. Get involved in that. It's a great show, a little bit more casual, a bit more of a laugh. Lee will give you a bit of a roasting as well, no doubt. I might even show up like I did last time and give him a bit of a banter myself. It's a good little show to start. They've only just started going out with that, so if we build it up, get involved, the more people that get involved, the more that the show will grow, and the more looking forward to next year what we could do with that show. Fantastic stuff over on simnews.tv YouTube channel, so not this one, Simnews for now. Hopefully next year we might graduate to this channel, we'll see. In the meantime, good luck everyone who is racing tomorrow, except the Edge guys obviously, but I'm way too biased. But no, seriously, good luck to everybody. Good luck to the commentators. Everybody going on. Fantastic. Yeah, Loose Wheel Nuts overcut straight after the race as well. Thank you very much for everyone for joining me at this very late hour. I appreciate you all being here. Thank you everybody that's been in the chat. That's great. Is it over, Michael? No, your career isn't quite over yet. You've still got 3 rounds at least left. Is that enough? Am I 8, 9, 10 maybe? Where are we up to now? Anyway, I'll see you all next time. Thank you for joining me. 2 weeks time, we'll be back again for another Scrutineer on this channel. In the meantime, catch everything that's going on. Make sure you subscribe and you'll not miss a single thing. Thank you everybody, and I'll see you next time.